Sure, my name is Jake Plunk. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Fleur-de-lis Energy. Fleur-de-lis is a startup. We officially bought our first assets in July of 2014. We have a strategic partnership with KKR. They're primarily focused around buying producing properties, cutting operating costs, doing developmental drilling. So a year ago today, we had one asset in Mississippi, 600 producing wells. Today, we operate, gross operated production is just over 25,000 BOEs a day. We have production in 3 states, in Wyoming, Texas, and Mississippi. And as part of that growth strategy, we utilized SAP as our accounting function. There's a program called Ready Upstream, which utilizes the SAP platform. And that was our kind of decision that we were going to bring in all of our accounting staff. We were outsourcing accounting at the time and decided to bring everything in-house. And we're utilizing that not only from the oil and gas accounting side, but also all of the financial reporting and production data capture as well. So.
Great, big transformational steps. Thanks, Jake. So next we have Tracy from Tesoro. Tracy has generously stepped in for Kathy Hinton at the last minute, and we want you to know that we really appreciate you doing that.
So thanks. So I'm Tracy Smart. I'm Chief Fill-In for Kathy. So I'm the Business Solutions Manager within supply chain. For those unfamiliar with Tesoro, Tesoro is a downstream and midstream company. We're headquartered in San Antonio, and our operations are west of the Mississippi. We have assets including refineries, pipelines, and product distributions, as well as a large number of gas stations branded under many different names. Last year, we purchased a natural gas company, diversifying our capabilities.
Great. And after Tracy, on her left, we have David.
Yep. Hi, I'm David Reid with National Oil Varco. We are about 55,000 people company with around 69 countries, and what we do is primarily make things. We're a manufacturer of drilling rigs, everything inside a drilling rig, be it offshore or land. And through the life cycle of operating the rig, we sell a lot of equipment into the process, and then we kind of have a third business in the completion and production business.
Excellent. And last, but of course not least, we have Claude.
So my name's Claude Seaman. I'm the Vice President and Chief Accounting Officer for Continental Resources. I joined them in 2007, just before they went public. And I've seen it grow from my accounting staff, about 20 people, up to about 80 in the last few years. We're headquartered in Oklahoma City, a top independent oil producer. We've got the largest lease position and one of the largest producers in the Bakken field in North Dakota and Montana. And we've had compound annual growth rate on reserves and production of about 40% since 2010. And even this year, we expect to grow production about 20% over last year.
Excellent. Okay, so great panel, great companies. Let's get started. We'll try to hold the answers to 2 minutes to ensure that we get to all of our planned questions. The first question is for 3 of our panelists, starting with Jake. The oil and gas industry has seen a lot of change since this time last year. Many of us have been keenly focused on cash flow and cutting costs. We have deferred investment decisions and looked for ways to reduce recurring costs. But we all know that this is a cyclical business and that the market will eventually come back. So that'll create the need to ramp up operations and production quickly to take advantage of the turnaround. From your perspective as C-level executives, what are you doing to ensure that your company is prepared for the impending upswing? Jake?
Oh, let's just hope there is an impending upswing.
I'm confident.
We're a little bit different story because of the rapid growth that we've had and the acquisitions that we've made, primarily from publicly traded companies. We've had the opportunity to really come in and look at everything, look at all of the operating costs, look at where capital was being spent, look at where lease level expenses were coming from, and have that ability to basically make changes where we saw that it was prudent. I think that obviously with oil prices, primarily our production is oil, which we've seen a huge drop since really a year in the last year. I think that fortunately at the timing that we did our deals, we do have some hedges in place, so we're able to kind of manage cash flow, and actually we were able to put some hedges on into 2016 and 2017 at some higher levels. So we feel pretty comfortable around just where our cash flow is, but what we're doing internally, and we've had meetings just in the last few days around opportunities of drilling opportunities, of facility opportunities, and where we can utilize some of these and lever some of the things that were projects that were very near term to finish. As we were buying an asset in Wyoming from Anadarko, they had spent a tremendous amount of capital on facilities over the last 5 years. And some of those projects we're probably going to defer, but at the same time, we're looking and evaluating where we think there are opportunities. And really, we're seeing some drilling opportunities that are so much of the infrastructure was already in place that the economics are pretty attractive even at $40 and $50 oil. So we'll figure out a way to make it work. This industry always does, but there's definitely been such a huge amount of growth across with all the shale development and really in the business. We've had a lot of capital creep as well as G&A creep throughout the industry, and there's going to have to be some pretty hard decisions made as to where you look at cost cutting.
Great. And how about you, David?
The planning through the upswing was really about keeping cash and finding the right place to spend it. The downturn actually helps us. We're very acquisitive, so we, on par, probably buy a company a month. So we do a lot of that. So last year was probably 18 companies that we bought. This year's been quite quiet because of the downturn. But we believe that there's going to be, at the base of that, an opportunity for more acquisition. And we think that'll work very well for us. But we also operate our business in a way where we have disciplines inside the business that are created to survive better in downturns, because it's not a surprise that this comes to us. And so we'll do, an example would be if you take a manufacturing plant and you put the work outside, you say 50% of your work is going to be outside. The kind of work that people want to put outside is the complex stuff, and keep the easy stuff for themselves, and they can optimize that. So if you can change that behavior, multiple manufacturing plants can now support each other with simple work that you can transfer. It's a simple plan, same as hiring outside people to make sure you have an ability to ramp down and still maintain your core. So there's various strategies, but the key thing I think is knowing that it's coming and working in your upturn to know that this is the time for that. And then all of our high-end technologies are going to really drive now to deliver value results. So we've got a lot of automation work that we think is going to be perfect for now, because it will start cutting the edge out of the cost of operations.
Yeah, so I think this industry is so cyclical. We've all learned to be efficient both in the upturns and the downturns, right?
Right.
We know that it's coming. How about you, Claude?
So the things that we're working on are obviously trying to align our capital expenditures with our cash flow. We're drilling only with our committed drilling rigs, those that we already had under contract, and then we're delaying completions at this point. We're just not completing the ones that we're drilling. Our actual cash costs are about 30% lower than they were last year per BOE. And then we're trying to keep our employee base intact. We haven't had any layoffs. They're not being discussed. But what we are using is the available people that have some available time. We're concentrating on building the processes and procedures so when it does turn around, we've got those in place. Yeah. We just finished upgrading on the suite on HANA and PRA. We're working on our close processes and looking at our revenue processes, reviewing our expenses to make sure we're billing everything under COPUS that we can, and just trying to make sure we've got that communication between departments so that we're ready to go when it does turn around.
Yep, sounds like you're going to be more effective when it does turn around, right? That's a great plan. And Tracy, Tesoro is in the downstream business, and things are a little bit different for you. Your company operates in a different part of the value chain, so it's true that it's a little different, but just like the others, the business is still cyclical. So how are you and Tesoro adjusting to these dynamic swings in the market?
Well, so since Tesoro's in this industry that is cyclical, we're always looking at ways to take costs out of our operations. So last year we started our implementation enterprise-wide for Lean Six Sigma, which is enabling us to have sustainable improvements to our efficiency. As well, within supply chain, we're undergoing a transformation to ensure we can scale to the growth of the company without adding significant cost.
Great. Okay, so the next question's for Jake. As part of the current downturn, we have all been looking at ways to operate more efficiently. In your role as Chief Operating Officer, what are some of the hidden opportunities that you've discovered to increase operational efficiency?
One of the things that we bought some assets in the Permian, and what we found is that they were running a 2-rig drilling program. So effectively, they were drilling 4 wells a month, and but they were only able to complete 2 wells a month because of limitations on their frac water. So we woke up kind of at the end of February, and our drilling contracts were about to expire. So we looked at shutting down those drilling contracts, reevaluating the process, and we realized that there were about 10 wells that had been drilled and cased but not completed. So we were able to reduce capital costs tremendously by shutting that down and effectively getting these wells for almost half price. And it was those sort of things that I think that it's one thing as you have a drilling department or a completions department that there might not have been the best communication. And keep in mind, all of these assets that we've acquired over the last year were more or less stepchildren because of either mergers that didn't fit their business model correctly, or they'd made a decision to get out of enhanced oil recovery in the case of Anadarko. So there's all sorts of opportunities. Anytime you are able to start paying attention to stepchildren, you tend to find opportunities that may have been overlooked by the previous operators.
Yeah, it seems like downturns, they force people to take that look. When you're running in the upswing, you're running 100 miles an hour. When the downturn comes, you got to really focus your efforts. So I think that helps make you more efficient when the upturn comes again. So even though it's not our favorite time, it's probably good for the industry. Tracy, downstream organizations are always facing margin pressures, so somewhat. These are even, they're always there. It's always a volatile market. What are you and Tesoro doing to ensure a stable margin in 2015?
So as I mentioned earlier, we have our Lean Six Sigma program to drive sustainable efficiencies, but specifically within supply chain, we're always looking at ways to automate. So as a chief fill-in officer, we're looking for opportunities to really drive more automation to remove non-value-added tasks and be able to add business value by being more strategic. So last month, we just went live with our Ariba procurement content, which has allowed us to leverage our catalog buying, which in result has given us better cost controls and increased our PO automation. We'll be continuing on our Ariba path with supplier enablement and e-invoicing over the next year. So as the margins continue to change and with this market, we'll just continue to look at those efficiencies that we can drive through leveraging our tools and technology.
Good, and then those efficiencies are going to last you when things turn around, right? Okay, so Claude, from your perspective as Chief Accounting Officer, one of our top financial leaders on site, what are some of the ways that you can reduce complexity in finance?
Well, I don't know about for everybody else, but for us, it's about keeping it simple. So we've got one basic operating entity. That's all we have. We try and standardize our JOAs, or if we're not drilling under JOAs, what we do under poolings. Try and standardize our leases, our master service agreements. Try and standardize our processes so that everything gets done the same way. A couple of years ago, we did an electronic accounts payable system, and we finally got that up and running well, and about 85% electronic invoices. Excellent. So it's those kinds of things, and then also it's about communication. It's about making sure that, especially finance, knows what's going on in the rest of the organization. Because there isn't anything that ends up in finance that isn't touched by somebody else first. Yeah. We don't generate anything. And so if we can keep our hands with the rest of the operations, land, geology, engineering, all those kinds of people, and get that communication going, then we can deal with the accounting side of what needs to happen.
Great, that's great. Okay, so Jake, With margins under significant pressure, companies are focused on getting more out of existing assets as opposed to building new ones. What are some of the key challenges you've encountered in trying to optimize your existing production infrastructure?
Again, it really depends on the type of asset that you're operating. I mean, a field in West Texas versus a gas field in Mississippi or a enhanced oil recovery project in Wyoming, they all pose their own set of challenges. And there's certain things like CO2 purchase contracts, so we're purchasing CO2 from Exxon from another field in Wyoming. Well, those contracts were put in place multiple years ago, and the contracts go through 2026. So there's certain aspects of your cost and there's take or pay aspects of it that you can try to mitigate certain costs, but you're committed to those contracts. And fortunately, the price that you pay for the CO2 is actually indexed to oil prices. So as oil prices go up, CO2 costs more. As oil prices go down, you do get some relief, but you don't walk into Exxon's office and say, hey, we're not going to honor this contract. So there's certain aspects of that you just have to deal with, and those are costs that that you're going to have to incur. Things out in the Permian Basin, fortunately for us, we have most of our production is held with existing production, so we don't have to worry about lease expiries or other things. So those are really decisions that companies are going to have to make as to how much capital do we commit to holding acreage? Is this acreage that we even want to hold? Or are we going to let it expire? So those are things that, a year ago were obviously not even on anybody's radar screen, but today those are aspects of the business that you have to make hard decisions.
Okay, so Tracy, in the current market reality, we're always looking for sustainable cost reductions. So what are some of the best practices you use to reduce inventories, increase visibility, and improve supply chain accuracy?
Well, we recently added a director of materials management and supply chain. This has allowed us to have a dedicated team which focuses on the inventory levels and our strategies around materials on a regular basis. We have done a number of things to improve our inventories, including using vendor-owned inventories, and are currently working to implement project closeout procedures to address excess materials, which in the past have been left behind, increasing our overall value of inventory. When it comes to best practices, it may sound silly, but ensuring inventories have controlled access, as well as capturing the movements in SAP have become critical into our inventory strategy to provide that visibility we need in order to optimize our levels. So those are the different things we're looking at in terms of maintaining our inventory efficiencies.
Great. Okay, so David, history shows that the oil and gas industry is resilient, but companies must be agile to quickly adapt and to thrive as the business cycles change. As a strategist, what are some of the strategies companies can implement to stay competitive in today's market conditions?
I think strategy is a difficult subject in large companies, right? Because everyone believes they're doing it, but generally you're tactically sound. And so when market change comes, that's kind of a shock to the system. People don't change rapidly. And so one of the things that we do is we find the strategic minds that we have and we develop them carefully no matter what the cycle. And some of them are actually applied on tactical things, but we still keep them in long-term thinking. And we create groups that are unnamed. We have these quiet skunk works groups all over the place of thinkers who work on ideas that actually affect the future. And we call them fight clubs only because of the movie. And because the first rule of Fight Club is there's no fight club. So you can be involved, and strategists love to be involved. So even when they're young, they want to be involved. Yeah. So you can involve them, but there isn't someone in the company going, well, why are they doing that? Mm-hmm. And so it allows us to rethink other ideas and have them ready and developed. And so you allow little things to happen in the company, and it kind of people enjoy that. It makes it a lot more fun.
So do they have a full-time job and they're in the Fight Club?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is no Fight Club, so what do they do? What Fight Club? I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
So it's secret. You have your own job and you have that job too. But you know, people really thrive on having that.
They end up being your top leaders.
Yeah, it's an
They
opportunity.
end up being your top leaders, so yeah.
That sounds great. So Claude, many companies are doing IT landscape simplification to shrink their data footprint and to reduce their total cost of ownership during the downturn. What are some of the other benefits of simplified IT landscape on an integrated platform?
So obviously, anytime you have an integrated platform where everything talks to each other, it's easier to share the data, it's a lower cost of hardware, support staff, all that kind of stuff. But that being said, I'm not sure that that really always works all the time. The business wants what the business wants, and they want best of breed. And if the integrated platform doesn't have the best of breed, they don't want to use it. So we end up with a separate land system. We end up with separate well operations systems. We'll end up with an AFE workflow system that's outside, external electronic accounts payable system, an HR system that we have to tie in. And so for me, you'd love to have simple, but I want a business that has what they need, and that means you've got good data across all those systems and it's all tied together. That's what it's really all about.
Yeah, it's about the integration and it's about delivering value to the business and making the decision about what's important to be in that integrated platform and what gives value to be that, because it has a special need that you need to deliver something different. So that's an interesting concept. Also appreciate that. So this next question is to all the panelists. Both ends of the hydrocarbon value chain, oh, there we go, are in the midst of, you're trying to turn me off already? I still have 20 minutes. Both ends of the hydrocarbon value chain are in the midst of transformation driven by a convergence of market forces and digital innovations. Research shows that companies who embrace the digital world and execute on their digital strategy are growing shareholder value faster than their peers. Yesterday, in the morning keynote, Peter Meyer and Ken Evans talked about the importance of the digital evolution of this industry. How do you see the industry evolving, and how do you embrace the coming digital transformation in your companies? So let's start with Jake.
It's an interesting question. I mean, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in that question.
But the one thing that I think it kind of getting back to Claude's point about keeping things simple, if the technology allows us to make decisions quicker and more informed decisions, if the data is accessible to an engineer in our offices in Dallas that can be helpful to a problem that we're experiencing in the field, to me that's adding value regardless of how we handle it. Again, with different, buying 3 different assets from 3 different previous operators, integration can be a little bit of a challenge because you're on 3 different accounting systems and 3 different production reporting systems. And
talking to each other can be quite of a challenge.
So that lends itself with challenges. And so one of the things that I really have charged our IT director to do is to try to come up with a common platform that we can incorporate production data, because at the end of the day, what we do as kind of an upstream oil and gas company, it all starts at the wellhead. Right. And if we have bad data at the wellhead, then it flows through every system all the way to the financial reporting up to, a KKR who they like their financial reporting. They
want it to be accurate.
They don't always understand. They don't grasp all the garbage that may be coming into the system at the other end. So if we can come up with a common system where we have confidence in our production reporting data that ultimately gets put into the accounting software, which goes into SAP, which then gets spit out as a financial reporting tool, then that to me is where we see the most value. And whether that's data capture remotely in the field, or whether that's as simple as like all of our wells in Mississippi, there are literally 9 pumpers drive around in pickups every day, and they report on the old Barton charts because, I mean, these wells don't make a lot of gas, and it's really cost prohibitive to look at going full telemetry all the way back to the wellhead. So we actually capture some data at like compressor stations or central batteries, but in order to get that well information, it's old school. They're just looking at these old Barton charts. And so they're actually entering that data into an iPad though.
Yeah.
And then they'll go, once they finish their route, then they'll sync it up to our fielding system. So
Yeah, so you give them a way to get the data consistent, but they're still using effective, cost-efficient technology at the wellhead itself.
yeah, which is mostly an F-150.
And a gas pedal.
And a gas pedal, yes, yes.
All right, so let's see. Tracy, what about you guys? What are you doing to embrace the digital transformation?
So I think for us, it's kind of a two-tiered approach. You know, we are driving towards standardizing our processes, and as well as minimizing our customizations of tools. As we talked about yesterday with the ever-changing technology and the ability to adapt more quickly to the new tools, we've learned along the way that if we have very custom applications that we can't change and grow with the technology as it comes. So we're really looking at standardizing the processes so when we have new acquisitions or new businesses that we can quickly integrate those into our tools and move forward. On the other hand, on top of the technology and being able to adapt and be scalable at a fast pace, we're also looking more field focused with the end users. So just this past weekend with my husband and some friends, we were talking about, you know, the difference between Apples and Androids and how more technical people tend to go to Androids and how non-technical people tend to go to Apple. And, you know, my husband's like, oh, well, but I love the folder structure. I could go see where my files are. And the folks that had the Apples is, well, why do I care the folder and where my files are? I just hit my app of my stuff and I'm good. And I think that's one of the things that we're learning, that just because the technology is there, if it's not field focused and used for the people out in the field and really work for them, that if you give them a mobile app, but they're still using a flip phone, it doesn't really fit that. So,
It worked too well.
those are kind of two ways we've been looking at it.
Yeah, so that's great. Keep your audience in mind, that's for sure. So I think I'll mess you guys all up, and let's go to Claude next.
So for me, this industry's always been cyclical. It'll continue to be cyclical. We're always going to be at the mercy of the world oil and gas prices. But it really is becoming more about data. I mean, my engineers will constantly tell me, just give me access to the data. They don't want to know how to do it in BPC or in XYZ. They don't care what the software application is. They don't want to learn 40 different software applications. They don't want to come up with a way to do something or an idea about how to look at something and have to send a report request off to the BI team to generate a report that they get back in 3 weeks, that now they've already solved whatever problem it was because it's too late. So it's all about the immediacy of the use, and we've got to figure out some way to get some kind of a tool, and I'm not the technical guy, I don't have the ideas on exactly how to do this, but
I think there's a room full of those.
Around our company, I talk about, you know, it's Google for business. You know, they want to sit down at a very simple interface and type in, compare operated LOE to non-op operated LOE in this county in Oklahoma. Yeah. And they want it to come back up in a spreadsheet. And then they want to be able to drill down into that and look at chemical cost and electric cost and all that kind of stuff, and they don't want to wait 3 weeks to do it. One of the problems we have is by the time we generate a report out of our reporting group, they come up with a different way to look at it, and you cannot possibly build all the potential ways that they want to slice and dice material into reporting.
Sometimes they don't even know how they want to slice and dice it
until they look at
the first iteration, right? And you know, the way that the world works in this digital world, everybody's used to having immediate access to everything. So your personal life has trained you to be like that at work, right? So
Yep.
People are asking more and more about, I want access to the data, I want to get it quick, and I want to be able to to use it and manipulate it and
So
understand
the
it.
challenge for us as a finance team and SAP and whoever else has got data that's out there for this is to make it easy for those end users to get access to quickly and get it immediately.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've been in this business 32 years, and I've said that for 32 years, but we're going to get there. So I think we'll like to hear from you, David.
Okay. Well, I came into the oil and gas industry because of technology, which was part of my driver. And at that time, this is how long ago? 24 years ago. They, as I interviewed, everyone had an Apple Mac on their desk, which in those days was unheard of. I'd only ever seen green screen. There was no Windows yet. And all I knew was I wanted that. I'm like, what the heck is that? And they're like, it looks like paper on the screen. Is that real? And they're like, yeah. So, and everyone got one, and they funded everyone to have computers at home. And it was a interesting thing. I'm like, well, this is not the oil and gas industry I thought of. And I got to build robots and do gigantic 140-foot tall machines that we do with control systems for. And we've gone through that process over many years. And the thing I've learned is there is a bit of a generation issue of who wants what, when, but that's passing now. And everybody wants everything now. And the problem we have is we love technology. It's a problem because
It's an opportunity.
And it's not an answer. So in my world of automation, which we've done great work in getting the formations to choose what the driller does. We've created this loop with drilling rigs, and it's highly efficient. But the journey there was we got a company that had drill pipe with a wire in it that could give you as much data as you want. And it seemed like a great idea until we realized we have built a 100-lane freeway with no on and off ramps and no cars. Maybe there's one car. It's the classic wrong question. And so learning, we have a lot of people in our business love automation, but it's not a thing, right? It's a tool. And so learning to find out what's the thing, what are you trying to do, and how do you bring value? That's the hard question with technology, because you can get excited about technology and make everybody equally unhappy, and it doesn't matter. It's not a subject. The subject is, what are you trying to do? Can you make it better?
I say that all the time. I always say because people that work for me love, because I'm the CIO, love technology, right? That's what we're all about. And we're about technology, and we get excited about it. But what we have to remember is we're not in the technology business for creating technology. Sure. We're in the business of supporting an oil and gas refining company, and the technology has to be geared towards making that successful. Right. That's what we're all about, right?
Yeah, I think when we started on this project, we went to the worst possible application to see if we could find value. We were in Eagle Ford, everyone was drilling great. And suddenly we're 60% faster on the well, and you're like, okay, now you got something. Everyone wanted to go to they all want to go to Norway, where it's very expensive, your costs are high, and let's prove this technology. Well, a minute in Norway is not the same as a minute in Eagle Ford. And we proved it, but had we not had the discipline to go, this is an important thing we have to do. And it's hard to be disciplined with technology, because everybody wants it, particularly engineers. I want this, it's really great. But,
anymore, it's not even just the engineers, though. Everybody is exposed to technology all the time, and it is exciting.
So getting that right is the hard part, because you can spend a lot of money making everyone have fun, but not delivering a result. So I think that's the challenge you face, is how to use it for the right reason.
At the right time and place, too. So, okay, so I think we're running short on time. We've heard some great ideas. This is a great panel, and I really appreciate their wise words. Thank you to the esteemed panel for their insights and participation today, and thank all of you for your attention. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope you all have a safe journey home. And I think Jason has some housekeeping items that he's going to come up and share with us. So thanks, everyone.
Oh.